It's 6:01. I'll call the meeting to order. And we've got administrative action items to start. So any additions or changes to the agenda before we get rolling? No? Okay, great. Approving of the minutes from the December 18th select board meeting, which was a special select board meeting when we went over budgetary stuff last week. Hopefully everybody remembers it. Did everybody have a chance to review minutes? Can I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nope. And I guess we don't have to ask because somebody else is on. Board orders. Probably put a couple of board orders in the packet, and everybody have a chance to review those.
I added 2 today for payroll.
Okay. I saw those.
Including your own stipends.
Oh, wow. Wow. Anybody want to make any adjustments to those or no? You're gonna get a motion to accept and sign the board orders?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And the approval of the highway grant reimbursement request for Moscow Woods Bridge project. So this is just the distribution of the funds after completion.
Yeah, $30,090.01.
Fantastic.
That was using less than.
The full grant was a more extensive repair,
Yeah.
but then we went with Plan
This is
B.
for what we did.
Yeah.
Can you tell me why there's still being orange barrels out there on the bridge?
No, I can't tell you that. I'm not sure.
There's 3, they're lined up all along. It makes it look like it's still not safe
Oh, okay,
on the bed.
I will look into
Not
that.
clear.
They've been there all year. I mean, all since
Yes,
spring.
So I was surprised to learn that.
But I thought they'd
repairs were done.
some work on the edge there anyway, so I'm not sure why just forces traffic together is what it does.
Right, it was to keep people away from that side and try and make it one lane at a time, I think.
But if they've done the work to it,
Right.
then why are they there? Yeah.
If they are the towns. Can I get a motion to approve the highway, grant reimbursement?
Approved the reimbursement request.
Second.
All in favor?
All right,
Aye. Any opposed? And thank you. The authorization of the town administrator to approve invoices and distribute payments prior to the January 13th select board meeting. We have many.
3-week
Yes.
span. I'll probably do one mini AP run
Okay.
between now and then.
We did that.
We did that last year.
time.
Yeah. And super
And
reasonable.
then, yeah, and then we still sign them.
Yeah, we'll sign them. Yeah.
Can I get a motion to authorize Kari to pay invoices and distribute payments between now and January 13th?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Approve and sign PBR 4261-E errors and omissions certificate from the town lister regarding the changes in valuation for Andrew Lamb and Lori Griggs parcel 331051. I guess before we just approve it, is there any update or a change that you want to review with us, Joe?
No, we didn't even know there was an error until the property owner, he owns 2 abutting properties in the same name. In our system, we render those abutting properties inactive and transfer their value to the active parcel.
Oh,
He bought the land and things were transferred. It was 2 little parcels were made inactive back in 2014 or 2018. But no one knew that the value hadn't been transferred, the additional acreage hadn't been moved over until he decided to put that additional 7 acres in.
oh,
So suddenly we get a notice from the state saying, this guy's saying he's got 80 acres, but the grand list says he's only got 73. So we potted around and found a mistake that had been sitting around for either 8 or 10 or 8 years.
Wow.
We fixed it.
So this is somewhat unrelated. So are you saying that if somebody has 2 adjoining parcels under the same name, that it automatically merges the parcels?
Statutorily, it sounds like it would be a billing convenience. It actually does give a person a break because the total acreage then on one lister card, you get the value, the scale thing going
All right.
on. So it's a better deal. It makes life easier unless you forget to transfer the values.
Well, I'm wondering like about subdivided parcels that might be under the same ownership. So if a lot went under subdivision.
If there was a case where there was land like that, any unsold subdivided pieces would be inactive and they'd be attached to whatever parcel was deemed active.
Interesting. How long does that take? Like what's the process for determining if it's inactive? Period of time or just somebody saying?
Like a little property owner will buy an abutting property. And as long as the ownership is exactly the same, then we do that. We'll tell the owner we're doing it, but we don't have a choice. The state requires us to do this.
Interesting.
But is that an issue then if they wanted to take and like say, put another house up on there, does that subdivision go away? They have to subdivide it again?
We gotta take houses too. If there's a house on one of the inactive parcels, we have to take all the CAMA data and move it. And this isn't like some kind of automatic, please computer move the shit. It's piece by piece by piece. And then if the person says, oh, now I'm gonna sell it, piece by piece.
Okay.
That's interesting. Sorry, that is off the topic and I will save that over some drinks later on. But,
Anyway, this is 7 acres now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the 31,400 difference is for 1 year or
That is
10
no,
years?
that is 1 year. That is the value of the 7 acres.
Okay. And did we lose the prior years?
Town did.
Town did.
I processed the revised tax bill last week and it was an increase of $56, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 Well, does anybody have any other questions about that particular item? Can I get a motion to approve and sign?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
I-
Thanks, John.
Right.
Yeah. Merry Christmas. The amend the Mountain Tamers 24 to 25 request for additional or access to the town right of way. We discussed this during the 2 meetings ago. Is that right? It wasn't the last meeting. Was it last meeting?
Yeah, that's right, because Rose pointed it out.
I thought we had added or on the fly some language about that, knowing that we had missed it, but essentially they kind of copy and pasted from a couple of years ago, and it didn't include access to Kent Hill Road, giving them temporary seasonal access along Kent Hill Road over to Maple Corner, which is something that we approved for them last year, and didn't seem to be an issue and benefits the store. So I don't imagine. I think we actually discussed this for a little bit. So if we could just get a motion to make that amendment, send it to the Mountain Tamers. That's gonna be.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it right here, but they requested the amendment, right?
Yes.
I move to give them the amendment they requested that we previously discussed.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And that is the end of the administrative work. So next, we've got a period of public comment, but we're going to be pretty late today. I see Craig came in and is probably going to be talking about the next item. So if everybody's comfortable moving on. Oh, Barbara,
I did. yes, I
sorry,
did. That's better.
please.
So I was working on the select board 2025 calendar day. And in follow up to last meeting, when Kari recommended that the select board move to,
April 14th and 28th.
right, to move to do your public hearing on the new town plan and zoning regs, and then vote it on the 28th of April. I realized that, well, my question is on April 14th, because you're going to hold a public hearing. Do you want to start that select board meeting an hour early? This is what you did back in March or January this past year when you did a public hearing on the zoning regs. You started the select board meeting at 5. held the public hearing from 5 to 6 and started your regular select board meeting at 6 p.m.
Mm,
And the reason I'm asking now is so that we can get this on the calendar and also let the planning commission know that it's going to be a 5 p.m. meeting so they can get it on their calendars. So I wanted to ask what time on April 14th, the day that you have a select board meeting and now you're adding to it, a public hearing on the town plan and zoning regs?
Barbara, that's all the way in April. I don't know that we need to make the decision now. I think we might want to have a little bit more dialogue. I was thinking about this a little earlier. We had made or had a conversation about potentially moving the meetings a little bit earlier to like a 5 p.m. start time, and making a change to our rules and procedures. We didn't quite get there, but we were thinking about making that change after the new year. So, if we could put that off until we have that dialogue, because I feel like if we move things to 5 p.m. And then try to start having a hearing at 4, it's going to start getting trickier. So maybe the regular start time at 5 just gives us a little more room to accommodate those types of things anyway.
Okay, so that's fine. So we'll wait, but maybe we could have that discussion in January, because I'm sure you're going to want planning commission members present for this public hearing, and a lot of them work.
Right.
So I want to get it on their schedules as soon as you guys can determine.
That would be my only hesitation, is that it's a little restrictive to other people's participation if they've got working schedules, but.
Right, I mean, but if we do move our meetings to regularly starting at 5, we theoretically for that one could still do the hearing at 5.
Good.
And start.
Yeah, I mean, we could just tentatively move it to 5, and either way, it'll be
You also
the right
have
time.
the hearing at 6.
Right.
And if the meeting starts at 5, you
Yeah.
just take a break.
Yeah.
And the benefit of 6 is that if someone works, the probably
Right.
conflict is likely.
So we'll just put
Let's
this on
just-
your January agenda.
I think, we'll try to get it on the 13th and
Okay, thank you.
revisit that, I think. Anything else? That's not on the agenda? Okay. So the next item for discussion is a mailbox dispute issue. I don't think this needs much conversation, but for the sake of context, this is an issue that has been developing or that we've been aware of for several weeks. And Kari and Jamie have had contact with the property owners who are involved. And there's been some dialogue between the three of us relative to, what role the town plays in any of this, if any. And seeking input and counsel on that. So that's kind of the extent of the dialogue that's unfolded at this point. One of the property owners felt strongly that it would like the town to clarify its position in the matter. And we went out and saw counsel from the VLTC and our own town attorney, and both of them gave very similar advice to the town relative to the matter, which was essentially we have an ordinance that allows property owners to place mailboxes in the town right of way without approval or application from the town, and that the primary source of input that dictates where that goes comes from the Postal Service, and they advise that the town can make a statement that clarifies that position relative to the matter, but that is the guidance that we've received at this point. We've prepared a statement that expresses as much, which we read. I don't think I have it here. It's on Kari's memo.
Want me to read it?
Sure, that'd be great.
So the Calais Select Board recognizes the right of citizens to receive home mail delivery. The town's right-of-way ordinance does not require a permit for use of right-of-way for private mailboxes, and the U.S. Postal Service specifies the location of private mailboxes within the right-of-way. Having consulted VLCT's legal services and the town's attorney, we believe neither landowners nor the town have the right to deny placement of a mailbox if the location is authorized by the USPS and within the town's right of way.
Is it VLTC, is that wrong?
VLCT.
Is it VLCT?
League of Cities and Towns.
Yeah.
Okay. Towns. Dyslexia. Does anybody have any questions about the situation or circumstances or the statement?
I have a suggestion that we need to modify the first sentence,
Okay.
only because the select board doesn't have any role in the right of citizens to receive home mail. We could say something like, we recognize the importance to our residents of receiving mail. But the right comes from the US Postal Service, not from the town. And it's actually the US Postal Service, it's a little bit complicated whether there's a right or not.
I certainly don't know whether or not it's a right. I'm comfortable with making that modification.
Yeah.
And adopting that if everybody else is. Thanks, Corey.
So,
I want to hear that read
Yeah.
again, please.
so the Calais Select Board recognizes the importance of home mail delivery to our citizens,
To our residents or.
to our residents.
Mhm. So before we entertain a motion to adopt that, I'll ask if there are any other questions from the select board about the statement. It doesn't look like there are. The next item is that, to my understanding, as it's been explained by Kari and Jamie, is that both property owners feel very strongly about their positions in the matter, and we've received requests to get involved or to communicate what our position is, and this, based on our current legal advice from the town, is exactly this position. If either party brings a difference of legal opinion and brings that forward, that needs to be reviewed by us and by virtue our legal resources, then I'd expect that to be appropriate, and we'd have a lengthier conversation about what's applicable or what specific actions need to be considered. But at this point, there aren't specific actions that are put before the town other than a request for clarification and statement. So is everybody kind of understand that position and agree with it?
Is this going to be, I'm just curious how the statement is going to be issued? Is it going to be in a letter?
The request was made by one of the property owners, so I would say it's going to be adopted in the next minutes and provided to each of the property owners involved, and it doesn't need to be circulated more broadly than that. An initial draft version that was pretty similar to this was distributed to the property owners, just as a kind of courtesy that this is the input that the town has received to date, and responded to the initial request that we've had at this point. So that's the extent of distribution that I see.
Okay.
Yeah, Kari?
Well, I'm just
And then-
gonna make the point that the use of the right of way ordinance is on the ordinance advisory committee's
It is.
docket.
That's
coming
correct.
year.
Yeah,
So the whole question, but the question specifically on enforcement could be taken up then.
yes.
In fact, I think it's next on the list and
Oh,
we'll
yeah.
likely take it up in January.
Yeah.
So,
Craig, would you like to make a statement or comment?
I would, and I spent way too much time on this today. At a time of the year, I'm just flat out getting sort of orders out the door. This is just dropped in my lap on Friday with no prior warning. I did not see this coming because of the conversation I had with Kari several weeks ago, the week of November 4th. And at one point when I was making my case to you, you said, hey, hold on, Craig. We're on the same page here. I agree that it is not within the town's purview to issue an opinion about this. And I'm sorry, I'm getting over cold. And so I've got a statement here, and I brought a copy to be entered into the record. I kind of would like to read the whole thing because of how this is proceeding. I'll say at the outset, and I see you being disappointed in hearing me say that. But okay, I misread your body English. Sorry.
No, no.
You know, you said that this is when it was going to be brought up. So I will say at the outset that I do not think it appropriate for the select board to make such a statement or to enter into this kind of opinion, because that's what it is, and it's not enforceable. So what is it? It's a resolution. It's a guideline. It's not enforceable. So I would like to see the select board move and vote to not proceed with this. Failing that, then I would like to read this statement.
Well, I think it's most appropriate for you to read the statement before we have a vote on whether we adopt the this. So if you think the statement would be pertinent to our consideration of the statement that's been prepared, then I'd welcome you to it. But you know, I again, as I had mentioned before, this is not an action, it's not a decision, it's a statement in response to a request for clarification on what the town's position is relative to its ordinances. And so that's all this is. And I don't want to say my guess is, but like if there is a specific action that is requested of the town in the future, as this issue works towards some hopeful resolution, then if your statement's more relative to consideration of what any future action would be, then that might be a more appropriate time to do it. I hear what you're saying, that it was dropped in your lap, but you know, really there's not much to consider here other than the town's guidance from its lawyers relative to its ordinances and relative to a situation that you've been embroiled with for several weeks. So
4 years.
okay,
So a long history.
sure.
And it's irked me 4.5 years almost. It's been a hardship for me for that long.
Okay.
That's why I'm here.
Okay.
One of the reasons also that it was difficult for me to be here on such short notice is my attorney was not able to be here or to tune in by Zoom because of the short notice. So I wanted to be noted on the record that I asked for a continuance and was denied. As I said, I don't think this issue is within the purview of the select board. It's a matter of law and should not be discussed in this venue. It's an issue of landowners' property rights, and the town's right-of-way ordinance does not cover this. A mailbox is allowed to be placed in the right-of-way, but the town does not have the authority to permit a person to place a mailbox on someone else's property. If this were to be allowed, where would it end? With one box? With two? With 10? I own the property, which is in the right of way. I pay taxes on it. It's within my survey, and so it's mine. And as such, I'm allowed to post the land against trespassing or hunting, etc. Yes, the town has use of the right of way for road maintenance purposes, but their authority ends there. Again, I spoke with Kari on November 4th and one or two other times that week. And when explaining my position on the matter, was told by him, we're on the same page here. I also don't think it's up to the select board to make a determination. So I thought the issue was resolved as far as the town was concerned. I do not understand why the town is responding in this way, in such a hurried manner, when there has been only one complaint. If the select board wants to review and amend the right-of-way ordinance, a warned hearing must be held. To be responding in this way to one person raises issues of equal protection under the law for me. I do not understand why the select board has even taken this up. When the issue first came up 4 years ago, I asked the then select board to advise me. I was told that the town attorney at that time had advised them to not get into it. Similarly, the town road commissioner at that time, even though he was good enough to come out and have a look, would not offer an opinion. What has changed? And you've explained some of this. What advice did the town receive now that causes them to think they should weigh in? It's for myself, the courts, Mr. Potter, who is my neighbor, and potentially Janet Ansell, who's been involved recently, and possibly the USPS to find a solution. The USPS does not have any jurisdiction over my property. They have been obstinate and unwilling to listen to any possible suggestions for a solution. I suggested some compromise solutions 4 years ago, but each was dismissed out of hand. Potter never said hello after moving in, replaced the offending box twice, and called the state police on me. On November 3rd of this year, Aaron Ansell, acting on behalf of his mother, replaced Potter's box with 2 new boxes, again, without asking for or receiving permission from me. And when I asked him to remove them, he refused. We argued, and I was provoked into removing the boxes. Came inside and called the state police. Trooper Dave Lambert came out later that day and went back and forth trying to resolve things. At one point, he told me he had consulted with the Washington County State's attorney, and she had said that I likely had the right to remove a box that was placed on my land without permission. The next day, based on that, I removed the post. There has been no mailbox on my land since then. Last Friday, after receiving an email from Kari about this meeting, Trooper Lambert coincidentally returned and issued a citation to me to appear in court in January. I have not been able to learn anything more about this. The assistant DA is not allowed to give me any information, and the file will not be passed on to the court until 3 to 5 days before my hearing, which will come just after I have complete shoulder replacement surgery. I called the court to try to reschedule. They said, we cannot do that until we get the file from the state's attorney's office. So this is extremely onerous. I can't find out any more information about it, but I can only assume that Potter and Janet Ansel are behind it, because Janet Ansel had sent an email to my attorney in response to becoming aware of my attempt to have a notice of no trespass mailed to her by certified mail, apologizing in this note for not asking for my permission to put up a box on my land. And that included a statement that read, "I've made clear that I don't believe you should be fined or charged with an offense, but that decision isn't mine to make." I can read between the lines of that passive aggressive statement here and do believe at least that this is what perhaps caused Potter to respond antagonistically rather than even attempt to find a compromise. This is not the way we like to do things here in Vermont. Why did Potter never come over to introduce himself and ask for permission to put up a box? A lot of grief might have been saved if he had done that. And he has never apologized for replanting the box, nor for calling the police on me now twice. As Janet Ansel and Potter have refused delivery of the notice of no trespass by way of certified mail, I have had to employ the Washington County Sheriff's Department to serve the notices to them in person at considerable expense. I have resorted to this to prevent them from coming onto my land to install a mailbox. I have been forced to respond to unwanted and unwarranted behavior in the way I have because my rights have been trampled upon. The district postmaster has not contacted me to discuss the issue. I reiterate that the USPS does not hold dominion over my property. From what I have experienced, they seem to think they can rule from on high. In October of this year, new neighbors moved in across the road from me into the former Judy Harden.
Craig,
Jenny home.
can I?
I'm almost done. Please don't interrupt till I'm done.
No,
Then
no,
you can ask me a
Craig,
question.
I have the authority to govern how this meeting.
You asked
goes.
me to come here. I'm almost done. Okay?
Is any of the rest of your statement relative to our consideration of this statement that we're trying to adopt, or any action or interpretation that the town would have purview over? Because right now,
Yes, it is.
the majority of it is not related to what the town business is in the matter.
It does. In my mind, it totally does.
I understand in your mind, but right now, we haven't been presented with anything that is relative to our purview of consideration other than just responding to an interpretation of our ordinance. So we're not involved in, calling the state police. We're not involved in any of the
I want you to
information.
understand all the parameters of what has gone on for the last 4+ years. And if you would let me finish, I would have been done by now.
Okay.
Thank you. And this goes to my point about how others may have acted. Francis DeMora placed a box at the end of their driveway and was told by the mail carrier that it needed to be on the other side of the road on my property. Francis asked me if that would be possible, and I said, let's go look at it. And I helped him site and install it. Francis and Emily are great neighbors, friendly and outgoing. What a difference. What of the statement that the select board now wants to discuss and possibly adopt? I can only view this as some sort of resolution or guideline, perhaps a policy, but it can't at this time be enforceable or be part of the right-of-way ordinance, as there has been no due process, no warrant hearing, etc. You read the revised statement. Again, the right-of-way ordinance allows a box to be placed in the right-of-way, but the select board does not have the power to permit a box on another person's land. This determination is beyond the scope of the select board's authority, and the issue is a legal one, which likely needs to be settled in court. For the select board to take a stand in favor of one resident over another is unfair, wrong, sets a bad precedent, and likely is not legal. It is very disappointing that the select board is pursuing this course. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the comments. would you like that attached in the minutes for January 13th adoption?
I have another copy.
Okay, great. Can provide that to Kari, that'd be great. Yes, Barbara.
It would be easiest for us to attach it if you could email that to us.
Okay,
If you could email
Sure.
it to Kari
Yeah.
or myself, either one. it's
Better than
easier to
just
copy. it.
transcribing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
glad to.
Does the select board have any other questions for Craig or relative to Craig's comment that would otherwise change the consideration of the statement that's been circulated?
No, I mean, I would say that, no, not really. This is,
we started from a position of saying the select board doesn't have a role in this. Are we still saying the select board doesn't have a role in this?
That is my interpretation of this statement, is that the select board does not have a role in this. And I am viewing this statement as a matter of being responsive to a resident who has requested the town to clarify its ordinance, and frankly, the requests from my perspective and Kari's and the attorneys is that there is nothing for us to respond to at this point, or action to, or decision or judgment to make, other than clarification of our right-of-way ordinance and what that specifies relative to the placement of mailboxes. And that's the extent of it. I mean, the ordinance doesn't go into any detail about application, the validity of placing it one place over the other, or specific enforcement measures. So none of that I feel like we have the grounds to comment on, other than to say that we don't. And if something changes relative to the legal consult that property owners receive, and some further consideration to how we might need to change the language of the ordinance so that there's more clarity there, that would be an appropriate time to have that conversation. But I don't want to speculate on what that is or make any particular definitive declarations. So I certainly wouldn't be comfortable with that. And that is my understanding of the intent of this statement. So if everybody's comfortable with the statement as written and modified with the edits there that we previously discussed, I'd entertain a motion to accept this statement.
second.
All in favor? Aye. And unopposed? That's that. Craig, good luck. Please let us know if your council has further consideration and statutes that we should consider as a town. But at this point, our position is in recommendation from our attorneys and legal advisors is to not be involved. And that's what we're going to try to continue to do.
And so I interpret what you just passed as a resolution, essentially.
It's just a statement. It's not a resolution.
Yeah. Same thing, unenforceable, as the legislature.
Yeah, there's nothing to enforce. Yeah, we're not.
I think the science right could be a similar statement.
And if that provides us the opportunity to be responsive to somebody, then that's as much as we're getting into right now.
I'm a flat earther, so.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right, thank you.
Just to clarify, you want it added in the minutes, obviously, and then shared with.
I think it'd be appropriate to share it
Correct.
as
Thank you.
adopted since there were changes, and it was just a draft previously.
But also send it to Craig and.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah, please and thank you. Moving to our next agenda item is the full 2026 budget. So we did a pretty lengthy review, and Kari prepared kind of a summary of some additional changes since our last meeting last week. And I don't think that we need to do a deep dive into anything, but Kari, do you want to just kind of run through?
Well, so I put all the changes in that we agreed to last Wednesday, other than creating a separate account for the technology licensing.
Right.
I need to tease that out a little bit.
Okay.
The billing is not so crystal clear.
Bummer.
And then there were a couple other relatively modest changes, but the most significant one is I found an error in my formula that had a duplicate wage for the delinquent tax collector. So I was able to reduce the budget by $11,000 there. So
Superhero.
the where things stand, the combined general government and highway department is at 5.7% increase of this budget over the current years. And then all in with the special articles, we're at 5.1%.
5.1%.
Yeah. And the only item that I don't have a lot of confidence is, I guess I have confidence in it, but I haven't gotten any kind of notification from the county about next year's tax. I believe they had a hearing about it last week. So I think that typically comes in early January, but I don't anticipate it'll go up or down by much. I do intend to go through again in detail and look at the formulas, look at the assumptions, just triple check and make sure. But other than that, I think we're pretty close if you're comfortable.
I did have one question that came out of writing the town report. And it might be a minor thing, but Ann's draft said that for the swim committee, we had paid for the dock. We had authorized payment for the dock. And we have this is line 151 and 152. We have a $5,000 amount for the swim committee, but nothing for the stationary dock. And I'm not, is that just an accounting thing? Or?
So, yeah, it is. Remember, this came up one of the very first meetings when we started the budget process, but you actually authorized 2,500 in this current fiscal year, which was half because of constraints. They didn't want to go the full amount.
Right.
So, Mark Whitman and the committee would like to purchase the dock this fiscal year.
Right.
So when they presented the budget this year, they said, if you would allow us to draw the balance, the additional, it's just under $2,500 because the total amount of the dock is just under 5,000 from the Vanguard reserve fund.
Right.
Right, okay.
Then what they would like to do is with this 5,000 is 3,000 of it would go to the normal swim operations. And then 2,000 would go to replenishing the Vanguard fund.
And you do have.
That makes sense?
It all makes sense. And it's fine.
Not sure exactly how to explain that succinctly.
I know, that's the thing.
But I think you can kind of cut to the chase and say we came up with a way to fully fund the you know.
Don't you want to see your faces?
Which, yeah, I think a good point to make, I don't remember if it's in there, but the raft was replaced recently and with the new dock, that means all the infrastructure.
Exactly, that is in there.
Great.
Ann had put that in, so that was all there. I was just checking on the doc. Thank you.
So perhaps if you have an appetite to approve this tonight, one thing you could do is pending, approval pending, finalization of the county tax figure. or any other minor or immaterial kind of changes. But if there's something significant came up that there's time, I can
There's
bring it
still
back to you
time.
on the 13th.
Yeah. I mean, I feel pretty good about the work that we did last week, and it does seem like we've refined this to a pretty, the outstanding questions that I think were more kind of substantive have been answered at this point. So I mean, I would be comfortable with entertaining a motion to, I guess, conditionally approve the budget as drafted, and authorize Kari to make any other minor changes as those come in. But if there's anything significant, then we'll have time to consider it. And at least it's accepted, and we'll be able to just kind of keep getting things ready for the warning for town meeting. So we're kind of running short on the time to do that.
Yeah, no, that's. Whatever you said, I move it.
I'm not comfortable with people just moving what I said. I always feel like it just needs a little bit more refinement than that. But, yeah. Okay.
Move that the select
Yeah.
board approve the budget, subject to minor refinements as they come up. Sorry, and if big stuff comes up, we'll deal with that later.
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Well, I think that's a pretty
Yeah.
honorable scope of work, and thanks, Kari, for keeping that organized and helping us work through that. That feels
Yeah, thank you.
pretty good relative to the impacts that we had from things that were outside of our control. Yeah.
We got the healthcare renewal.
Oh boy! And relative to that, well, I guess we'll have time to talk about the draft report. But I liked the addition and breakdown of the different percentages in the report. That I think was helpful and informative for the folks. But
The one that I drafted.
Yeah.
so we'll save that for later. The other item that you had listed under in the agenda was potential action to rescind the votes for the WCUSD ballot, but I didn't see any further notes on that, and I'm not really sure.
I haven't followed up on that.
So from what I understand from Tegan and last week's WCUUSD school board meeting, first of all, there are 5 towns in the district. All 5 towns must unanimously agree to mail ballots.
Right.
If one town disagrees, nobody gets their ballots mailed. 2 towns have voted it down. Even though Calais said, yes, we approve WCUUSD mailing their ballots to all of our registered voters. 2 towns voted it down, so they will not be mailing ballots. So Calais will not, and you guys voted yes, so if you need to rescind that vote. Tied into that, you also agreed that we would mail our own town Calais town meeting ballots and have WCUUSD mail them to save on postage. Now, Tegan and I recommend that we not mail town ballots. We would need, the postage would be over $1,500 to mail to every resident in town, plus the printing of over 1,400 ballots, when maybe 50% of those voters will just throw them in the recycling and trash. So we recommend that we not mail town ballots, since WCUUSD ballots are not being mailed, nor is the other school district, the Career Center school district is not mailing ballots.
Can I ask which 2 towns did not decide to mail the ballot?
Middlesex, and I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure which other one it was.
Berlin has historically been the town that's most resistant to it, but they've gone along in recent years.
I was reading a bit about the perspective of those towns. I can't remember, in an article or a post somewhere. And one of the concerns was that it was confusing to voters that some get mailed and some don't get mailed. And which I understand that that can be the case, and I think that would support us not mailing the town ones and having, at least for this one election, all the ballots be acquired in the same way versus some be mailed and some not mailed.
I don't disagree.
Looking at the motion from December 9th that Ann made, says the town of Calais allow the school district to distribute ballots for the school district's annual meeting via the postal service mail to all active, non-challenge registered voters on our town checklist. It doesn't actually speak to what we're gonna do with our ballots.
Was there a separate motion about our ballots?
Yes,
I
yes,
think there was.
yes, there was.
I thought-
Later in the meeting,
I thought it was right after.
Right after.
Because I remember discussing potentially delaying the vote on ours till we know the outcome of the school one.
Yeah. I remember that too. Uh-oh. I hope I got it right. Well,
I don't see that in here.
Well, it was either conditional to the school district sending it, and relative to them paying for it, or we put it off either way. So, it seems like we've got a decision to mail our ballots, and how soon do we need to make that decision, the town ballots? But it sounds like the recommendation is that we don't. So I guess we could consider just making a decision not relative to the outcome of the school budget.
Clear it out.
That would clear it up. So, and I would tend to agree with Jamie and Bill. Feel Christie about entertaining a motion. Oh, I guess, can we? No, yeah, well, I guess we said rescind, and we warned it on there, so we can vote on not sending.
I think so.
Yeah.
you can vote the mail.
And or town meeting.
Right.
Give ourselves a little latitude there.
Right. So we want to clarify what our position is, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think relative to the district-wide mailing of the school ballots, and the fact that mailing hours, the cost of mailing hours would not be covered by the school, and the additional complications of some confusion. It makes sense to not mail our town ballots.
And that's the recommendation of.
And that's the recommendation of Tegan and, yeah.
Did we mail ballots before COVID, or is this all?
Hardly ever, it pretty much started with COVID.
Okay. Because there's some sense that, you know, participation is greater if they're mailed, but is that maybe not so much true for town meeting? Because people have to go anyway to get the school ballot.
We've had very high participation in recent years. But that's because we have hotly contested items. We had a whole new select board being elected, a new town clerk being elected, a damn $450 bond vote. There were lots of things on recent town meeting agenda ballots that people were very anxious about. Plus, for last year's town meeting, it was also the presidential primary. So lots and lots of interest going on. This year, it's just kind of back to status quo. There's nothing hot and burning much other than budget and electing or re-electing a couple of select board members.
Yeah. So just a calm, well-run town.
It's the direction we're trying to head, Christy. That's the aspirational mark.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful. And so I'm comfortable with not mailing it.
Okay.
So we want to move
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Need a select board action on the whether to mail or not?
We would be most comfortable with that.
Yeah. So I'll make the motion to to not mail the town ballots relative to the down vote on mailing the school budget or the school ballots.
Not mail any ballots.
Not mailing any ballots.
Yeah.
Not mailing any ballots.
Unless requested.
Not automatically unless requested.
People mail.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
People request them, they will be mailed.
Yes.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. And we approved the budget, right? So that we did that in a little bit backwards order, but moving on to the town meeting warning, which there was a draft of in the folder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So this, our typical process is to get this more or less in line, make sure you're comfortable with it, and then send it to the town attorney for review. So you would probably see this again on the 13th with some minor tweaks. For example, specifying the purposes of the reserve funds.
Mhm.
You want to get that right. One thing that's not complete is the, I haven't done the non-tax revenue projection yet, so I will do that right after the holiday and then insert that number, and that will determine the amount of projected tax revenue.
Right.
So anyway, that's where things stand. And then Rose had a suggestion.
I don't remember what it was. Once I emailed it and hit the send button.
It's out. Oh,
It had to do with the Woodbury
Oh, yeah,
volunteer
yeah.
fire departments.
Yeah,
Um,
the last article,
Woodbury Volunteer Fire Department.
the Woodbury Fire Department.
Article 22.
And the suggestion was to either break it up into two articles, because there's two different components, or remove that first phrase that specifies the total amount. Because Rose found it.
I found it confusing and I actually went back to the budget worksheet and I looked at the two numbers and I was like, oh, and then I finally figured it out. The first sentence has a total, like $80,000 or something, and then including this for operating and this for truck replacement, so. And what if someone wants to approve one of those things and not the other, or change the amount of one and not the other? So I just found it a little confusing.
And the breakdown would be elsewhere in the report,
Yes.
so it doesn't necessarily have to be broken out in the warning itself.
Well, if you want to say, they need this much for operating and they need this much for truck replacement. So,
It does reflect the language from last year. It was done this way last year.
Yeah, and they actually provide
That's
a
their
sample
language.
article.
I didn't look at last year's text.
I mean,
But it seemed to work reasonably well last year.
I think it's helpful to have the full amount up front.
yeah, I'd be hesitant to split them apart. I do hear what you're saying, Rose, and it requires some double checking or thinking twice, but I don't know. I think it's already kind of challenging with so many with all the additional articles in the fire departments being broken out, and it's kind of a hotly contested debate, and so.
But I wonder if you could just maybe put that total, move
Just the
that
total.
first sentence to the end,
Yeah,
that they're requesting this for this and this for this, and the total is that. Instead of starting with the total, and then you say including so much for operating and so much for this, to me, I found it confusing.
So,
like I
so
said.
one thing you could do is flag this for the attorney and ask them,
Mhm.
what's the best way
Mhm.
to present this?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I would take including out and say that includes. You know, but I don't know, it's the same thing. in the
yeah,
end, but-
yeah.
yeah. I think the wording is a little awkward. So let's see if the attorneys think that there's a hierarchy. I can see why they would maybe want the total up front, because that's actually what's being moved, and the rest of it's kind of a clarifying statement. So it might get clunky if we try to put it above and then it might just get weird, but if they can work on the language so that it kind of comes through a little smoother so that it reads more like, this is the full amount that includes these two things. I think I think it is helpful for people to understand that there's a certain amount for operations and a certain amount for reserve fund replenishment. So we'll flag that for the attorneys to review. But the rest of it seems straightforward. I didn't have any particular questions about the warning or amendments for it.
I did have one, sorry.
Yeah.
Article 2, so I found it confusing that Article 2 is by Australian ballot. And I went to last year's and the Australian ballot was just at the end. I mean, if you're sitting there in town meeting, Article 2, to elect officials by Australian ballot seems out of place. I mean, we're going through with the moderator, Article 1, Article 2, Article 3.
Meaning you gotta get up at that point and do a ballot vote and then sit back down again?
Yeah, I don't know why,
Okay.
what,
Had we, was it last year? Was it
last
the
year
end?
they put all the Australian at the end. There were 3 last year.
The two bonds.
Yeah.
Yeah, so would it make sense? I kind of like that. Move that to the end.
That sounds fine to me.
Be the.
You have confirmed that Gus is going to have to moderate all of that, right? So he'll keep us straight.
I hope he's willing to do that.
I saw him at Charles this morning.
That sounds like a reasonable change to me. Does that work for any questions about that, Barbara? I mean, context, you always have like the full length of history for the last 15 years. I'm just waiting for you to tell me how we did it.
Any of the discussion, I haven't been included in any of the preparation for the warning, so.
Oh, okay.
It's been out of my purview this year.
Okay. Okay. Well, that seems clear enough, feedback. And Cardi, do you have anything else on there? Are you feeling good with that?
No, that's good. I did make a minor change today when I noticed Article 16. Though each of those bullets should refer to Article 15. When I think of it. But that's very minor.
It looks like there's a comma missing from Article 5. It's
Article 5.
1,789,997 as opposed to 1.7.
Oh, okay, yep.
All right, moving on to the next agenda item, which is the town report, which is the select board's section that was drafted by and revised by, was that?
Facebook comment.
And another draft kind of refined by Christie and circulated and posted to the folder. I had some comments on that. I think Bill did too. So let's just kind of maybe go around the horn and provide everybody with the opportunity to give some feedback, if that sounds good. Everybody have the SB report in front of them?
Yes.
Bill, you want to start off?
Excuse me, Joel.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Excuse me. On the town meeting warning, under possible action, it said approve the warning pending legal review. Do you need a formal?
Thank
motion,
you.
or do have to approve the warning?
Are we going to have it seems like we should wait for the legal review and then
Yeah.
we'll adopt it. So let's
You'll
put that.
need to sign it.
Yeah, we'll need to sign it.
Yeah,
So,
but as long as we've got your, okay.
So we're good with sending it for legal review.
yeah.
Okay, that's what I'll put. Thank you.
Thanks, Rose. It's a good clarification. So the select board report, we've got a draft of that in the share folder. Everybody's got it in front of them. And Bill, you want to direct us to a particular section?
Just where down in road equipment, second sentence. It said, and spending much time in the repair shop. I added the word less.
Less. Yes.
Um,
I know. That was an important word.
And then, Darren was talking about, both Christie and myself. I didn't grow up in Kent's Corner, I grew up in Calais, so I just changed that, so.
I'm sorry, what, Bill?
It said I grew up in Kent's Corner, but I didn't grow up in Kent's Corner. I mowed the Kent Museum lawn, but I didn't grow up there.
It's all coming full circle now.
Wait, all right, well, then. So just say Calais. Hold on. Thank you.
You could say next to the West Church, but I didn't want to get too divine about it, so, it was just fine.
I like it.
I appreciated the comments of, regarding the select board members, the previous select board members, Tulin and Donnie, Victorino. I thought that Anne's credit for focusing on residents with lower income, which was absolutely true. I was wondering if that was a little too awkward and specific, she was absolutely, I had language while I was driving here and then now I've lost it. Equity and access was the terms that I think I was wrestling with a little bit, but
I see your point. This isn't something that I had changed from Anne's, but.
It's more of a stylistic thing.
Advocate for,
affordability.
equity and affordability.
Yeah, equity and affordability.
For Calais residents. Is that
Mhm.
clear enough
Yeah, I think so.
without being, okay. Does that sound good to people?
Mhm.
Great.
Let's see, we had added some comments.
Yeah, there were some places where I had put that I needed people to check on. And if it's too long, we could clearly cut some out. I think some of it duplicates.
I did think that on page 3, you had asked a clarifying question on whether or not we should mention something about the expired plan.
Yeah.
I didn't know that we necessarily need to linger on that, but it could be pretty easy to just like work it into that last sentence. The new town plan is on track to be completed. I guess we like maybe expound on that a little bit,
This
saying
spring,
that
followed by the readoption.
of town regulations, zoning regulations.
Okay.
It's made sense. I proposed some change of language for paragraph 3.
Yeah, you wanted to say that we knew all along that we were asking too much.
Yeah. We were,
I think it's true.
Okay.
I think that's pretty accurate.
I mean, I wanted to take a little credit. Sorry, let us know that we gave him too much stuff to do. I mean, we knew,
Eyes wide open.
I was really trying to work towards language like this. Certainly when I started, there was a lot of conversation about the org charts and roles and responsibilities and unresolved decisions and different job titles that were, for years being wrestled with. And so, this is an evolving process. And I think it's as much about saying, we knew it was a lot to ask to begin with, and it's going to be something that we need to continue to work through.
Well, I think we learned a lot.
Yeah.
By doing
A
this
ton.
little
Yeah.
experiment.
Yeah. I think we need to afford ourselves a little bit of credit for experimenting and modifying, changing course when we recognize we need to change course. So anyway, that's the backstory. I guess we should probably just double check the math on these percentages now relative to the latest worksheet.
On the budget,
Yeah.
Sure.
These are old now, so.
and I'll be able to make that pie chart or anything else.
Yeah, pie chart,
Pie chart.
cool. Yeah, because your latest memo had updated budgets, right? Oh, no.
Yeah, I can plug those all in if
Yeah.
you want.
Then my next area of input, I couldn't answer any of the CVRPC and road standards. There was a question about 2025 or 2026.
Oh, this was for the Route 14
Right.
traffic study. We don't know when, or it's just.
Oh, it's scheduled for 25,
So we can say scheduled for
Yeah.
25. I like that verb.
as long as there's no floods, it should.
Yeah.
So we're told.
I thought the East Calais Dam commentary was good. And the dialogue around the Friends of the Winooski participation, and that's all good context, I think. I think the only thing checking for accuracy is the CVRPC funding of the construction that was provided.
So you're talking
It was
about
it was the funding of the stormwater project.
Yeah, Kari's report had a better description of the East Calais stormwater project, so I mean, we could take some, I mean, how much detail do you want on all this stuff in the select board report?
I don't know that there needs to be much detail.
Because Kari's description in his town administrator report had all the important info about the East Calais stormwater project, I thought.
We can probably just peel it out of there. We probably don't need to give credit to the funding if that's already listed in Kari's.
Yeah, let's just keep the East Calais Dam and Bridge in that, and then I'll take that
Yeah,
out.
that's upcoming.
The next change was at the top of page 7.
Oh, actually,
Oh, sorry.
Jordan, you wanted something about the Curtis Pond Dam, page 6.
Was it on page 6?
So it's now on page 7.
Oh, that's right. It's headed.
Oh, we're moving stuff, sorry.
Yeah, why is that? Oh, okay. Maybe it was just.
But I thought you were raising a couple of good points there on the dam.
Yeah. I just highlighted the whole end section, obviously very appropriate to credit Jamie and the Curtis Pond Association. So I didn't want to necessarily change any of that, but I did think that in that section, it'd be worth, noting and acknowledging Larry's efforts to keep the project as on time as possible and under budget. I have just very anecdotally encountered a couple of inaccurate representations of what the town's how much it cost and what portion was the town responsible for, et cetera, and to nobody's fault. I mean, you can't pay attention to all of these things, but any effort to, I think, reinforce that we passed the bond vote and that's what the town was committed to and paid for, and a huge testament to the Curtis Pond Association for going out and raising the additional money that would have been needed to avoid additional taxpayer contribution to finish the project. So
I am embarrassingly delinquent, with apologies to Barbara, on finalizing the CPA report. But I have a draft that's being circulated among the CPA now, and it delves quite a bit into the budget and funding formulas.
okay,
So maybe, I think it would be appropriate to say something here and or thank Hebert and D&K here, but I
Yeah.
also do that in the other one.
Yeah.
So I will have that by the end of the week. And I can send it, when I send it to Barbara, I can send it to all of you. Just if you're interested, and
I think it's important for the select board to acknowledge, make the acknowledgements on behalf of the select board, and then from the CPA report,
as well,
really go into the weeds.
Yep, I like that.
So Jordan, you're thinking something like when the cost of the dam turned out to be more than the total of the bond authorized, the citizens of the CPA stepped up their fundraising. You want to
Yes,
Say that here?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And acknowledge they it did come under budget, right? We can officially say that it was under budget.
Slightly under budget.
Yeah, so there were, and I was figuring out how to get into this in the CPA report. It came in, I think, $80 under budget.
It came in,
It was $1,199,920. That does not include some income and expenses from the CPA that the town never saw, right? There were some expenses before the town took over. There were some things the CPA raised money for and paid for.
The CPA being the Curtis Pond
Curtis Pond
Association. Okay.
Like outside of the town's project budget, but I don't think that's super relevant
Mhm.
to this. Like this is still true.
Yeah, that's like my county is, it's $80.
Yeah.
Under.
That's under.
That's less than a gallon of stain.
That's like the difference, that's like the difference of starting one of the excavators for an hour.
That's a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
But it's still remarkably impressive,
It is.
that they were able to do that.
If I could just have one little nit here, I would think that when you say Curtis Pond Association, you have after it in brackets CPA. So then any time you use CPA later, it doesn't, you're not thinking about an accountant, you're thinking about
Yes.
the association, because I was confused a little bit.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody good with feedback on that section? So I didn't even really make a comment for animal control. I just did pretty broad rewrite.
You did pretty broad what?
Yeah, just rewrite directly into the document
Oh, good.
for the animal
All right,
control.
I looked at your
ordinance.
comments before that, so I haven't seen that, but I'm happy to take whatever.
So, I just kind of changed the language a little stylistically, to kind of soften it a little bit, relative to the steps that we'd taken to resolve the outstanding livestock
Okay.
running at large, issue. And, there's a sentence in the middle that I'm still not entirely comfortable with, that it's not untrue, but I just don't feel strongly about including it in there. I think it would have the potential to be kind of inflammatory.
Which one was that? We've been frustrated?
Yeah, the one that I italicized, that we've been frustrated by the town's legal costs and animal boarding. I mean, I think I think pretty much everybody understands that we wouldn't be doing a good job at our job if we weren't frustrated by those things. And I don't want to be any more provoking than we need to be. But I think we do have a good update to make. And
Do you want to mention the cost? You want to acknowledge? Or you want to just leave it out altogether?
I mean, I like that the select board, so I changed the language at the end just a little bit to say the select board will keep, will continue to be working on recouping our costs.
Yeah.
I don't think we need to name the costs at this point. Again,
Most of those costs were.
they're in other fiscal years. They're going to show up on the budget if we ever do recoup them in a weird way. It's going to be great if we can, but we don't really know what the path is at this point. And I think it's most fair to just say that we're going to make an effort to continue to recoup them.
Yeah. I would say the main story this year
is that we're done.
is we're done.
Exactly.
We're done with that chapter, and that,
Well, maybe we start out that we just say the town was pleased to resolve.
So that's what I did. So the statement now says that, or the section now reads, the town took meaningful steps to conclude a longstanding issue related to livestock running at large in Calais, which has remained unresolved and a source of ongoing expense for nearly 3 years. This issue has involved multiple rounds of legal proceedings and settlement negotiations.
And then we can take out that next.
Take out that next sentence. In October, the court dismissed an outstanding challenge to its previous judgment, and the town was positioned to exercise its right to permanently rehome the animals. So that was another rewrite. I just felt like that was a little bit more specific to, it wasn't technically a judgment in October. From my perspective, I'm not a lawyer. Chrissy, you are though, so. It was a dismissal of a challenge.
In the
It was
third,
also the final judgment in the matter,
Yeah, it was.
but I can.
Well, so
I can
the reason,
continue to-
well, no, I think that, the reason I was trying to avoid the judgment phrasing is because we in our original motion, we did request a judgment.
Mhm. We didn't get the.
And we didn't get the judge, we didn't get the judgment we saw, but we did get the judgment to dismiss.
Okay,
Anyway,
So it says we will continue working to recoup our costs. Should we say costs in this matter? Or just recoup our costs in this matter? I don't know.
that's fine.
in the first sentence, after the comma, when it says which has remained unsolved, should we say which had remained unsolved? Because has sort of sounds
We
like
could
it
just say which was a source of.
which had remained, because it, to me, it sounds like it still does.
Which had, I would say, I agree with Jamie, yeah.
Had.
This is next.
English major, it's important. Language is important. It's our primary tool.
Thank you.
That and opposable thumbs, we gotta hold on to the stuff we got.
Not unless you're on TikTok.
Yeah, and then just added some stuff about the legislative changes. Anyway, that I don't think. I added a bit to the investigating of land purchase, but relative to road material acquisition and strategery.
You added some in there too?
Yeah, I did. And then that was the extent of my commentary. But otherwise, I think it's great. And since Anne is not here, the last bit for me was to write a thank you to Anne for her service and leadership during the period of transition, which I drafted and didn't dump in here just because it seemed kind of awkward to continue to review a thank you for her, but it seems like it would be appropriate to just drop that in to this thank you section as a kind of a separate call out from the existing members of the select board. So is everybody comfortable with that strategy? Could also do it like on the floor during town meeting or both, but
The town report, it's
I
there.
think it'd be nice.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like documenting it. So it's really just a signal to those preparing the report that there'll be a little block of text there that'll need some treatment, but that I'll circulate to everybody.
Great.
But yes,
So you're just, this is Ann Winchester you're talking about,
Mhm.
and she's not running for reelection? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. I just had one word or two under the swim committee about rail, write the word
Handrail.
handrail,
Mhm.
or change it to railing.
Mhm. I got that.
Thank you.
we should be careful. We should call it
Because
like
it says a new rail,
we should call it railing. We should call it a railing.
railing.
There's like accessibility things that I just
You don't-
know. I know somebody who used to do a bunch of trail work and you just like, don't ever call it a handrail.
So railing.
They call it a railing or thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I, yeah. but
Because it'd
just to
be
say
subject to like building codes and that's accessibility.
Rail, I think trains.
Yeah.
So,
That's fair.
Rail, new rail, like a third,
Right.
I've been along with that.
thank you.
Frog statuary, assistive frog statuary. Thanks, Rose. Does anybody else have any other comments or to discuss on that?
Nope.
And so we should be able to approve that final, I guess, probably on
Well, we're
January
gonna plug in
13th.
numbers and there's some cleanup to do, but
Yeah,
I think we're there. And that January 13th meeting would still keep us on a timeline. Perfect. Moving on to. I'll talk about it later. The town reports. No, that was,
We just did that.
we did that. Great. So just the reports for the Curtis Pond rehabilitation project. Is there anything to touch on? Still scheduling the party?
I don't
Ribbon
think
cutting?
so,
it
everything,
was just the budget really, and we made that last
right, they made the last.
engineering
Payment.
payment.
Is water coming over the dam?
Water is coming over the dam,
It looks
and
fantastic.
the low
It's
water
so
outlet
beautiful.
has been closed for the season.
Nice.
And the road crew put a chain and padlock
Oh, they did?
around it,
I
yeah.
didn't know they had that.
Plastic chain?
No, it's a metal chain, yeah. I do think that
Sorry,
at.
couldn't help myself.
At some point, we'll wanna think more about signage or other changes or, you know,
and
We'll
also
see how much-
keeping skaters away from the dam is a new issue because
right, we don't know yet how the different spillway will affect how far from the dam the ice remains thin.
Mhm.
And the cove is a lot deeper than it was. So we just don't know if the ice will remain, you know, with the previous dam, you could skate up to, 5 feet from the spillway. And the ice remained pretty thick. And there's been some people have had a little concern that it might stay thinner further out. So we're just for now have a sign and encouraging people not to get near it on the ice.
There was always a sign, wasn't there?
Yeah,
You'll allow.
right, yeah,
The CPA takes care of that, correct?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The skating rinks are cleared and people are skating.
it seems to be cold enough apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything else. I had a little back and forth with what's the UVM
Oh, the
historic
historic.
preservation folks. And I clarified that what we already paid them includes the design work on the historic plaque that we have to put up.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna work with them over the course of the winter to do that design work so that it can be installed sometime in the spring.
Good. Town clerk updates.
Yeah, I'll give a quick update. First, I have a question for Jamie. Can this Calais Pond Dam Rehabilitation Project come off as a standing report at this point?
I think so.
Have we taken ownership of it?
Yeah, I certainly will report when we take ownership.
Right.
Okay.
No, that's still in process.
Yeah, that'll just be a separate agenda item then.
Yeah.
Right,
we'll
we'll
just treat it as
we'll
an
just
update.
bring it up when it needs to be.
Thank you, Margaret.
So Tegan is gone this week. So I don't have a report from her, but I will tell you that I've spent a lot of time hounding board, committee, and commission members, as well as annual appointees, to give me their answer as to whether or not they would like the select board to reconsider reappointing them. So I finally have the last answer. So at your first meeting in January, I will have my first report to you to be thinking about reappointments, as well as a recruitment campaign to fill some empty seats. So I'm glad that's finally, I checked the last person off this weekend after 5 emails. And anything else in the town office we should report to them?
Well, I don't think we acknowledged the social services, committee, did we? Or
No,
was that last time? I can't
we
remember.
did that, we did that last.
Oh, because we did it on Wednesday, that's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And.
Barbara did, she did a beautiful job.
From the health clinic, never heard from the health clinic, Plainfield.
Never heard from them.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
so, thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. The town administrator's report.
So I wanted to say that the road crew's been very busy with plowing.
Yeah.
And you saw that the
Tomorrow too.
Yeah, but the last pay period, 4 of them had over 105 hours. And that was on top of
2
the
weeks.
pay period before, yeah,
Wow.
the pay period before that was really busy too, that included the holidays. So, it's just been a lot, and then tonight, we're looking at another half foot. But they seem to be in good spirits. We're ready to switch the healthcare plan to MVP on January 1st. And January's gonna be busy with updating all the benefits and, one of the last things I haven't done is run W-2s and, 1099s and that sort of thing, so that's gonna be busy. And then we'll need to start preparing for the town meeting presentation. We've got, several meetings to do that, but definitely wanna have our plan together. That's it.
And was it, I forgot to ask about this when we did board orders, but there was a tow truck incident with
Yeah.
the trucks. So was the truck fine? It just.
Yeah,
had
it
to be
was okay. It
recovered.
didn't tip over
Yeah.
or anything, wasn't damaged.
Was it one of the big ones or was it?
Yeah, Steve, what's that?
Employee was okay?
Yeah,
The trucks are huge. You cannot be okay at those
Yeah,
things.
he's okay.
Yeah.
Where was that?
On Toby Hill.
Toby Hill.
So it was a really narrow section that, is wondered about before. It was just got, one wheel and just got sucked into it.
Yeah,
That goes.
Yeah.
And it was very expensive.
it was. Wow.
That's a big record. Well, I'm glad everyone's okay. That's a bummer. No damage to the truck, just yanked him out. Well, rather it be the tow service than, road equipment doing the recovery. Well, I don't have anything else. Our next meeting is going to be on January 13th. And since I guess we didn't resolve the 5 o'clock start time, we'll count on that being 6 for now. And
But we'll have it on that agenda if you're ready.
yeah, I think that would make sense. And I'd take a motion to adjourn.